Today in front of me I have the SIM Max and the SIM Max draw drivers, and in this video I'm going to run you through how to adjust both of them. Now let me start by saying that we also have a separate video on how to adjust the standard SIM driver, because the standard is different, and we'll leave a link to that one below. Now the SIM Max and the SIM Max draw drivers are two variations on that SIM or shape in motion driver, but they do all share the same basic chassis or foundation, like this tech-rich carbon crown, the big protruding inertia generator here running from heel to toe at this 20-degree angle to advance aerodynamics. They have the same speed injected twist face, the very well concealed speed pocket here, and the inverted cone technology behind the face here, which all combine to produce distance, forgiveness and huge stability in the strike of these drivers. Now this one here is called the SIM Max, and this is the version really where TaylorMade engineers basically get to lock in the settings that they feel will provide the most distance and the most forgiveness, or MOI, of all the models. The weight at the back of this one is 6 grams heavier than in the standard SIM at 18 grams. And the face of the SIM Max is deeper and higher than in the standard SIM. Now if I pop that one down here and lift up the SIM Max D, or draw biased version of the SIM Max, this one is engineered to help players who tend to hit a slice off the tee. Now visually, the face is 18% bigger than in the standard SIM, and this one has a 12 gram weight at the back of the inertia generator here, but it also, if you look carefully, has added weight to the heel here, which will strengthen the draw bias of the driver. Now both the SIM Max and the SIM Max D, or draw, have adjustability, and with a simple adjustment wrench like this one, you can go ahead and raise and lower the loft, you can tweak the shot shape, and you can change things like the trajectory and spin the driver puts on the golf ball. Now an important point to note is you'll notice that the weights on the back of the inertia generator of both drivers, they can be opened with the wrench, but this is really just for custom fitters only, and our advice is not to touch these in these drivers, as they're already optimized by TaylorMade for you. Now I'm going to use the SIM Max driver here to show you how to adjust the drivers, but it's exactly the same for both. So let's start with this one. Now if you've never used the adjustment wrench before, let me show you how to do that first of all. And let's look at the opening and locking mechanisms of the screws. Now to open or loosen the shaft screw here, you simply place the wrench into the top of the screw and you turn it anti-clockwise like so to open. And then conversely, to tighten a screw, you do the opposite, you turn it clockwise, and these screws, when fully tightened, they make an audible click sound, just like that, to let you know the sleeve is safely locked in place and to avoid over tightening. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll open this shaft screw here. I usually hold it in my thumb and forefinger, and when fully opened, the head can easily be removed from the shaft. And when you do that, you'll notice numbers and settings on the tip of the shaft here, and these indicate some of the different loft, lie and face angle options you can choose. Don't get confused by all the numbers here, it's actually quite simple. TaylorMade use what is classed as a 4-degree tip adapter, and at the time of manufacture and assembly, the shaft will always be set to the standard loft, or STD loft position on the shaft here. So this being a 10.5 degree driver, when STD loft is lined up with this little arrow here, the loft is 10.5 degrees, the lie angle is a standard 56 degrees, and the face angle is perfectly square. Now there are actually 12 different notches or movements on the sleeve, and each one increases or decreases loft by 1/2 or 3/4 of a degree. So what happens if we want to reduce loft? Well, if we rotate all the way from the standard loft to the lower position here, line up the arrow and reattach the head, this effectively reduces the loft of this driver by 2 degrees. So then it effectively sets up like an 8.5 degree driver. Now at this setting, the face is also going to be 4 degrees more open than normal, and the lie angle is now 58 degrees. So as well as reducing loft, it's really going to put a fade bias or left to right trajectory on any shot. And at this setting, it will also reduce the amount of spin the driver imparts onto the golf ball by about 400 RPM. Conversely, if we rotate from the standard loft position all the way to the higher position, line up the arrow and reattach the head, this would increase the loft of this 10.5 degree driver to 12.5 degrees. And in doing this, you also shut the face 4 degrees more closed than normal. Again, the lie angle is 58 degrees, and this time you add about 400 RPM of spin to your shots. So as well as adding loft, this will really put a draw bias or right to left bias on your driver. Now, you don't have to adjust all the way to the lower or higher settings. You can adjust incrementally along any of these notches here to make the changes more gradually. Now, if you spin the tip adapter through 180 degrees from the standard loft position, you'll see this marking here, which says UPRT or upright lie. And if you secure the driver in this position, the loft is back at standard, that's 10.5 degrees again, but now the club sits 4 degrees more upright, and the lie angle has changed from 56 degrees to its maximum 60 degrees. So you'll find this sets the club up also for a draw, but it's a lot more subtle than in the higher loft setting we mentioned a second ago. Again, from this upright lie setting, you can make the loft lower or higher incrementally to make those changes a little bit more subtle. Now, I'll bring in my Sim Max driver again, because we are talking about increasing and decreasing loft, producing a draw or fade bias, but really in the case of the Sim Max draw driver, the shot shape is primarily affected by this extra weighting in the heel here, so do bear that in mind. So that is how to adjust your Sim Max and your Sim Max D or draw drivers. They are already some of the longest and most forgiving drivers out there, and then with the options to really dial in your optimal settings with the adjustment wrench. And it's very important always to remember that you can adjust your driver on the range or at any time before or after your round, but just not during it. Now, if you enjoyed this video, please do give us a like and subscribe to the Golfbidder YouTube channel. It really means a lot to us. And of course, stay up to date with the very latest on Golfbidder Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. For me for now though, it's Donal, out.